If the previous unit, Hux, explored the architecture of intelligence, then this unit explores the architecture of virtue. It answers the essential question: how can transformation remain pure, stable, and sacred? The answer lies in one timeless principle, adab, the moral rhythm that sustains every pulse of the ecosystem. Transformative education, ET. Blue Book Ecosystem Transformative Education, ED.
Academic Unit Nomor
5 Ethics of Transformation, adab as the soul of learning. 5.1 Conceptual Introduction, when knowledge loses its soul. Knowledge without ethics is like light without warmth. It illuminates, but does not nurture. In the modern world, education has produced brilliant intellects yet failed to cultivate beautiful hearts. This imbalance has created what Syed Muhammad Naqib al-Atas calls the confusion of knowledge, the dislocation of truth from goodness. ET identifies this as the ethical fracture of the digital era. While the mind of education has evolved, its conscience has not. Learners know what to do, but not why they do it. They can solve problems, but often lack clarity about whether those solutions serve life or destroy it. Thus arises the necessity of adab, the ethical framework that rehumanizes knowledge. ET asserts that no transformation is truly transformative unless it is guided by adab. For without adab, change becomes chaos, progress becomes pride, intelligence becomes arrogance. Adab is the soul of learning, the invisible light that keeps transformation aligned with truth. 5.2 Philosophical Foundation, the ontology of adab. In its deepest sense, adab is more than manners or decorum. It is the proper order of being and knowing. The term derives from the Arabic root aid-bi, meaning to invite to goodness. It implies harmony, proportion, and appropriateness, each thing placed in its rightful position. From an ontological perspective, adab represents the alignment of human consciousness with divine order. It is the balance between haq, truth, and care, goodness, between ilm, knowledge, and amal, action. In classical Islamic education, adab was not a separate subject, but the living context of all learning. It defined the relationship between student and teacher, between knowledge and character, between intellect and humility. ET restores adab to its original grandeur as the ontological foundation of transformation. In this view, education is not merely the cultivation of skill, but the discipline of the soul. Every act of learning becomes an act of self-arrangement to put the heart, the intellect, and the will in their proper places before God and humanity. 5.3 The triadic nature of adab, self, knowledge, and society. Adab in the ET framework operates through 3 intertwined dimensions. The first is adab toward the self, which calls for self-discipline, sincerity, and awareness of one's purpose. The second is adab toward knowledge, which governs intellectual humility and respect for truth. The third is adab toward society, which ensures that learning is directed toward service and justice. Adab toward the self cultivates tazkiyah al-nafs, purification from ego and vanity. It demands that the learner approach knowledge as a seeker, not a consumer. Adab toward knowledge restores reverence for the act of learning. It treats every book, every teacher, and every moment of discovery as sacred. Adab toward society transforms learning into responsibility, the awareness that knowledge is a trust to be shared, not a weapon to dominate. ET weaves these dimensions into one continuous practice of living ethically in thought, word, and action. The ultimate goal is to form akhlaq al-karima, noble character that becomes the fragrance of civilization. 5.4 Scriptural Grounding, the prophetic ethic of knowledge. The Quran describes the relationship between knowledge and humility with exquisite clarity. And say, my Lord, increase me in knowledge.
Quran Surat
Taha 20:114.
This verse, revealed to the Prophet Muhammad, emphasizes that knowledge itself requires humility and dependence upon divine guidance. The Prophet, despite being the most knowledgeable of humanity, was commanded to continually seek more, a reminder that learning is an endless act of worship.
The Prophet also said,
The most beloved of people to Allah are those who bring the greatest benefit to others. H.R.
Ahmad.
E.T. reads these teachings as the ethical constitution of transformation. Knowledge must lead to humility, and humility must lead to service. When education produces servants of life, rather than masters of power, it fulfills its divine purpose. 5.5. The relationship between adab and haqs. In the architecture of E.T., adab functions as the moral software of the human index, haqs. Each of the 10 intelligences finds its ethical calibration in adab. Cognitive intelligence is moderated by honesty, emotional intelligence by empathy, moral intelligence by justice, technological intelligence by restraint, and creative intelligence by sincerity. Without adab, these intelligences become unbalanced. A person may be clever but manipulative, innovative but unethical, expressive but egocentric. Adab harmonizes the haqq system, ensuring that the flowering of intellect never overshadows the fragrance of virtue. E.T. therefore teaches that adab is not an addition to intelligence, it is its essence. To educate the mind without educating adab is to create brilliance without light. 5.6. The pedagogy of adab, from instruction to iltizam. Teaching adab cannot be achieved through instruction alone. It must be modeled, lived, and embodied. The E.T. pedagogy thus introduces iltizam, the principle of ethical commitment. In this method, teachers are not transmitters of knowledge but exemplars of virtue. They guide through presence, patience, and prayer. Students are invited to internalize adab through reflective practice, not memorization. Every learning activity is framed by intention, niyya, and reflection, muhasabah. Classrooms become circles of sincerity, where dialogue is tempered by respect and discovery by gratitude. E.T. envisions rituals of learning, small but profound acts such as beginning each class with basmala, ending with reflection, or engaging in adab dialogue sessions to discuss ethical dilemmas. These rituals form the invisible curriculum, the moral rhythm of transformation. 5.7. Ethical ecology. Adab as the DNA of institutions. Just as individuals need ethics to remain whole, institutions need adab to remain just. In the E.T. framework, ethical ecology means that the principles of adab are woven into the DNA of governance, policy, and culture. Universities guided by E.T. design their policies with the awareness that procedure without morality leads to oppression. Leadership decisions are made not only for efficiency, but for maslahah, the greater good. Evaluations and promotions are tied to integrity and service, not only performance metrics. Through this ecology, adab becomes institutional character. The university is transformed from a bureaucratic machine into a moral community, a jama'a ilmiya, a gathering of hearts united in the pursuit of wisdom. 5.8. Theological reflection. Adab as light of existence. The classical scholars often described adab as nur al-wujud, the light of existence. This metaphor captures the essence of E.T.'s vision. Adab illuminates human action from within. Without adab, knowledge becomes shadow. With adab, even the smallest act becomes radiant. The Quran praises those who combine knowledge with reverence. Indeed, only those who have knowledge among his servants truly fear Allah.
Quran Surat Fatir 35:28.
This fear, Qaf, is not terror but reverence, the deep awareness of divine presence that prevents arrogance. E.T. regards this verse as the epistemological peak of education. When learning leads to awe, not ego, it has fulfilled its purpose. 5.9. Civilizational implication. Adab as the architecture of harmony. No civilization can sustain itself on technology alone. The collapse of civilizations, both ancient and modern, has always begun with moral decay, the loss of respect, humility, and self-restraint. E.T. sees adab as the civilizational architecture of harmony, the inner grammar that holds society together. When adab guides politics, justice prevails. When adab governs science, discovery serves humanity. When adab shapes culture, art becomes beauty with truth. Adab, in short, is civilization's immune system. It protects the collective soul from the viruses of pride, corruption, and nihilism. E.T. thus envisions a Tamadun Tagiri, a transformative civilization founded upon ethical literacy, where every innovation begins with intention and every policy ends with compassion. 5.10. Summary statement: Adab as the heart of E.T. The ethics of transformation is the beating heart of the ecosystem transformative education. Without adab, the ecosystem loses its rhythm. Without virtue, intelligence becomes void. E.T. restores adab as the living soul of learning, an energy that flows through teachers, students, policies, and systems alike. It is through adab that knowledge becomes wisdom, reflection becomes reverence, and education becomes worship. In the end, the goal of E.T. is not to produce the most advanced institutions, but the most adab-conscious humans, those who think with humility, act with justice, and live with gratitude. E.T. reminds us, to transform the world, we must first refine our adab, for adab is the language through which truth speaks and the form through which wisdom lives. Transition to Academic Unit Number 6. The next chapter will unfold digital ethics and the moral compass of artificial intelligence, where E.T. explores the intersection between adab and technology, ensuring that the age of machines remains guided by the light of the human soul. Would you like